Thanks for watching what I hope was a lovely edition of the Young Turks. Now, you know that is 2 of the 5 segments that we do because that's free. We want to have you support independent media and come watch the whole show that we do every day. That's 5 segments overall, no ads at all. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Come become a member. Thanks for watching either way. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Got a big show ahead today for you guys. Giant show. You know, I don't think this story is getting enough coverage. It's super weird because normally cable news loves anything related to Russia and Trump, but Mueller is going after Trump's bank accounts. That's gigantic news. That's later in the program. I'll tell you all about that. Trump also, of course, endorses Roy Moore, but his spokesperson is unbelievable. We'll get to her a little bit later in the program as well. In the second hour, John Oliver versus Dustin Hoffman, Battle Royale. I did not see that coming. There was an elbow from the sky, and Dustin Hoffman didn't see it coming either. So that is fascinating. Anna's going to bring us that story. And there's so many stories. Our own, look, there's a bunch that I don't know that we're going to get to, so I shouldn't tease them. But the Santa's Not Real story is awesome. And then you've got somebody trying to shoot up a mosque. Gee, I wonder why they're doing that. I'm sure it has nothing to do with how people are attacking Muslims in the press and other places. But TYT Investigates is a fantastic story about the DCCC and how they're telling Democrats to, hey, cool it with the primaries. So really important story. That's a little bit later in the program. But we're going to start with something very serious and important first. Let's go over here. Okay. Unfortunately, there have been some serious allegations against someone in the TYT network. His name is Sam Seder. He does the Majority Report. They found an old tweet of his where he tweeted this. He said about Roman Polanski. Remember, of course, there's terrible sexual assault allegations against Roman Polanski. And Seder said, don't care regarding Polanski in a tweet from 2009, but I hope if my daughter is ever raped, it is by an older, truly talented man with a great sense of mise en scène. Okay, so he not only is part of the TYT network, he's also an employee at MSNBC. He's a contributor for them. And MSNBC said, quote, an insider there to the press, internally, there was disgust over the tweet. Now, here's Seder's defense, which he had on the Majority Report. This smear involves the willful misinterpretation of a tweet that I posted in 2009. I will never be ashamed of criticizing those who would excuse the predation of women or girls, and I certainly won't be quiet about Roy Moore or a conservative movement that would defend his actions so they can get his vote in the Senate. Okay, now, as you see there, he's a former MSNBC contributor because they, in essence, have fired him. So what are we going to do at the TYT network? Sam Seder, you are not fired. Get out of here, man. Are you kidding me? This is an attack by the alt-right, by an absolute, let me be careful with my adjectives here, a bad actor, to say the least, as you're about to see. And he pretends to care about women and rape and then goes and stirs up the pot. It is incredibly weak and, yes, pathetic of MSNBC of taking this action. Now, look at the tweet. Was he talking about being in favor of Roman Polanski? No, the exact opposite. Really, you guys don't understand sarcasm at all? In fact, what Sam Seder was doing was attacking other liberals, which the alt-right should be thrilled about, who at the time in 2009 were now beginning to put on some defense of Roman Polanski, and non-liberals as well, of course. Even though he'd done the terrible sexual assault and rape actions and why he fled the country, some people were arguing, well, I mean, but he is such a great director, we should let him back in the country. And that is exactly what Sam Seder was making fun of, saying, no, I don't care that he's a great director. He was accused of rape and very legitimately, so legitimate that he ran out of the country and is a wanted fugitive. No, we should not allow him back in. So if you don't understand that, there's something wrong with you. You're not very bright. Now, the reality is almost everybody does understand that. The alt-right attacking him doesn't care about this issue at all, as I'm about to prove to you. And to me, what's particularly heinous, though, is the cowardice of the mainstream media. Look, if you've got a real story of allegations of sexual harassment, that is a completely different animal. And so that's a different matter and should be taken with the utmost seriousness. A joke where someone is against rape, but you let an alt-right guy pretend that he's in favor of it, what's wrong with you? And the reality is, I don't want any trouble, I don't want any trouble, I'm gonna call everything even. So who are they calling it even with? There's a number of people attacking Sam, but the ringleader is a guy named Mike Cernovich. I never talk about him because he's a troll, and he is thrilled to be a troll. He tries to troll everybody, but apparently since the mainstream media is so blindingly stupid that they would take him seriously, we're gonna have to talk about him. So, to give you some context on who he is, it has been 1 year, as Media points out, since Edgar Madison Welch infiltrated pizza shop Comet Ping Pong, armed with an AR-15 and a revolver after the Pizzagate conspiracy theory pushed by Cernovich and others spread around. So he's the guy who spread around the insane conspiracy theory that there was a pizza shop where the kids were being molested. You know who actually molested kids? Roy Moore, the guy that they support. So for MSNBC's so-called progressive network to come out and go, oh, the defenders of Roy Moore and his child molestation pretend to be concerned about a joke against rape from 2009, so I'm gonna fire the guy. It is beyond preposterous. Okay, so Cernovich put out an article. He does this all the time against so many people. At this late juncture, for them to be that much of a coward to give it to a guy like Cernovich is unreal. The title of the article was, MSNBC contributor Sam Seder endorses Polanski's sex crimes in now deleted tweet. Wait, what do you mean endorses? So I guess Mike Cernovich is preposterously stupid. One of the dumbest guys alive if he can't tell that's a joke. But the reality is, of course he knows it's a joke. But he pretends that it's not a joke to get to his goal. So in fact, he's obsessed with this topic. The topic being child molestation. He talks about it nonstop. Now to give you, hey, MSNBC executives, since you're stupid, let me fill you in on what Cernovich is about. He accuses almost everyone of pedophilia. Why? Because it's the dirtiest thing you could accuse anyone of. And this is what, and he trolls for a living. He's a right-wing monster. And you were leaning forward at some point, I guess. I don't know what forward was and I don't know what leaning was. Now I guess you're leaning backwards, but you're giving in to guys like this. So let's take a look at the people that Cernovich is accused of being a pedophile. He says pedophile Podesta won't concede tonight, referring to the campaign chairman of Hillary Clinton, thought it was Trump who wouldn't concede election night. So apparently, for no reason, no facts at all, Podesta is a pedophile. Then we move on to Tim Kaine, the VP choice. Creepy Kaine really does have the look of a pedophile. Okay, nonstop. Then we go to Salon magazine, publishes an anti-rape article. Instead, Salon published pro-pedophilia article at his platform for pedophiles. Time to write, quote unquote, investors. Why do they fund a money-losing, quote unquote, company? It doesn't matter. He's going to accuse everyone who's opposed to him of being a pedophile. That's what he does. And then he goes and stirs up the pot. Investors, advertisers, corporate executives. Let's get them scared because they're stupid and they'll just react to us and actually support the people who are in favor of monstrous things that Roy Moore has done. And by the way, that as you're going to see in a little bit, Cernovich himself supports. So he's not done yet. He keeps going. The Clintons, he claims, were running a pedophile ring. It's been in the emails all of the time. We just weren't able to see the code. This is the insane Pizzagate theory. Everyone that is a political opponent of his is a pedophile, including Republicans. So we go to this tweet. This is about Ben Sasse. Ben Sasse is a Republican from Nebraska. But he had the temerity to not fully support Donald Trump. So the brown shirt that is Mike Cernovich put out this tweet. How many underage boys did you pass off to convicted pedophile and GOP leader Dennis Hastert? Now, he is right that former GOP leader Dennis Hastert was in fact a child molester. You are right about that Republican who was a child molester, but not about Ben Sasse and passing off kids to him. This guy is an absolute monster. And what does that make you, MSNBC, that you cave to a guy like that? So, and then he brags about his method of lying about people and then smearing them effectively online. So he was, another guy that he was lying about is Jesse Singal, and he says, he puts it in quotes, Jesse Singal is a sexual predator. I can get that on page 1 of Google in due time. Meaning, I'm gonna game the system. I'm gonna lie to advertisers, I'm gonna lie to investors, I'm gonna lie to executives, I'm gonna lie to companies, and I'm gonna try to game the system online that I take a political opponent and I put that on page 1 of Google. Oh, by the way, A lot of people are never going to see all other tweets I made. They're never going to see his defense. They're just going to see that. So with 25, 50, 75, whatever percentage of the country, I will defame all of these people to the hilt and then laugh as I get other people to do my bidding for me like MSNBC. He must be ecstatic today at how pathetic MSNBC is for doing this. So now, remember what he initially professed to care about. Oh my God, Sam Seder did a rape joke. That is unacceptable because I'm sure that Mike Cernovich cares deeply about rape and protecting women who have suffered from rape. So let's find out if that's the case. Let's go to his tweets. He says, have you guys ever tried, quote unquote, raping a girl without using force? Try it. It's basically impossible. Date rape does not exist. This is the guy pretending to care about rape. This is the guy that MSNBC was convinced was so righteous that they fired one of their own contributors. And not anywhere near done. Here's more. He says, and this is his words, a whore will let her friend ruin your life with a false rape case. So why should I care when women are raped? This is the guy pretending to care about a rape joke. I'm not done yet. He says he's got what he calls an anti-rape game in this next tweet. After abusing a girl, I always immediately send a text and save her reply. So after he, apparently according to him, and by the way, he can't now claim that it's a joke. First of all, does any of this sound like a joke? This guy's an absolute monster. I don't believe it. But I know what his defense is going to be. Oh, what? I'm just joking. I mean, I admitted to sexual assault right there. And I got MSNBC to think that I care about sexual assault. After I sexually assault women, I get them to reply to me in a tweet so later I can blame them and victimize them again. If it's a joke, it's the world's worst joke and exactly what the problem is. But it isn't a joke because you see all of these patterns. Here's another one. In case you were unclear yet, after all of this, one more tweet. When is the last time women organized to support a men's rights issue? Stop being fags. Who cares about breast cancer and rape? Not me.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
MSNBC, you ought to be absolutely embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. You know, how many progressives are you going to fire because the right wing scared you a little bit? Because they said boo. All you care about is your own careers, the executives out there. I don't care what happens to progressives. Why would MSNBC care about progressives? Now they're going to throw one after another under the bus. Oh no, Martin Bashir said the wrong thing about Sarah Palin. First you force him into apology after apology and then you fire him. And then you can go through the whole long list. Radigan, in that case there's no apologies, he didn't do anything wrong, but he did speak at truth to power. He's also now part of the TYT network. And then, Oberman had his issues over there. Ed Schultz is gone and the list goes on and on and on and on. All those progressives. Why? Because they're not progressives. They're a giant multi-billion-dollar corporation, and the only thing they care about is the career of their executives. Oh, well, I know this Cernovich is a monster. I know he's wrong about this, but what do I care? Throw another progressive onto the fire so that I don't take a 1% chance about my career, which is the only thing that the people who made this decision care about. It is gross. And finally, I need you to understand something. Sam Seder does a great show at the Majority Report, and you should go watch it over and over and over again. YouTube.com/Sam Seder gets you to the Majority Report. And we have a wide and varied network here. We've got people all over the political spectrum, and certainly on the progressive side, but all over the progressive side. And sometimes, yes, our hosts don't agree, and sometimes they share that widely. But I support them. I support their right to speech. The alt-right claims that they care about freedom of speech, and then they want somebody fired over something that they know was a joke. They don't care about freedom of speech. They're brown shirts. They never cared. When they cried all those tears about Milo and Shapiro, oh my God, they were denied their $20,000 speaking fee for not being able to speak. Well, and when they were denied that fee, who defended them? We defended them, because you do have freedom of speech in this country. But they don't believe in that. All they believe is in fascism and this kind of despicable defamation, slander, and smears. And the next time some alt-right guy like this comes to you, understand what their history is. Never, ever believe them. Because if you make the mistake of believing them, they'll then turn around and use it against you and laugh at you behind your back, which is exactly what they're doing to MSNBC today, which they thoroughly deserved. I can go on and on. I'm going to leave it there. Let's go to Joy Reid. Okay. Now, Joy Reid is an anchor on MSNBC, one that I knew when I was there, and even after I left. I liked her a lot. I still like her in person and as a human being. I do not agree with her politics, and I think that some of the things that she has done in accusing Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders supporters of things is atrocious. So I want to be clear about that. Now, she is in a bit of a scandal because folks found things that she had written about Charlie Crist back when he was a Republican. She was concerned about his hypocrisy because he was voting against gay rights when he was governor of Florida. And at the time, there were rumors that Charlie Crist was gay, and she jumped on that in a blog that she wrote at the time called The Reid Report. And she said, Miss Charlie, stop pretending, brother. It's okay that you don't go for the ladies. Okay. She went on to say, now that he's married to a girl, Charlie Crist is being sought out for all kinds of good stuff. The GOP are wooing Miss Charlie to run. And then one more that was along those lines, at least. I can just see poor Charlie on the honeymoon, ogling the male waiters and thinking to himself, God, do I actually have to see her naked? Now, are some of those comments crossing the line? Yes. So constantly referring to him as Miss Charlie, and Joy now acknowledges way too much. And she did that 17 times. Why did she do it? Is it because she hates members of the LGBT community? I would argue not. So let me give you the context of what she said. She said, when a gay politician gets married, it usually indicates that he's highly ambitious and desires to put himself in a position to move up the power ladder. Now, and she went on to talk about his hypocrisy. I think she was trying to point out the hypocrisy. Now, I don't know what Charlie Crist's sexual orientation is at all. I don't impugn it. I don't know anything about it, okay? And even if you were to think that he was gay, I don't know that doing it that way was productive. In fact, I do know it was not productive. On the other hand, do I think that it is right to call out Republicans who are gay but closeted? Yes, I do. I didn't always. I changed my mind on that issue. There was a documentary that I watched that showed how much different Republicans act after they have been outed. They then turn around and vote for gay rights. Well, that makes a giant, giant difference. And if you are voting against people, and even if you're not gay, but you're voting against gay Americans, well, politically attacking you is perfectly fair game. Now, in this case, she went a little overboard. And have other people done that in the past? I think yes, okay? But is it something where I think she has bad intent? I'm gonna say no. Obviously you could disagree, feel free to disagree, and I'm sure that many will. First, here are her apology. She says, "This note is my apology to all who are disappointed by the content of blogs I wrote a decade ago, for which my choice of words and tone have legitimately been criticized." She went on to say that she was insensitive, tone deaf, and dumb. I understand though that. I think that she's being hard on herself, and I think that a lot of people would think justifiably so. But at least tone deaf is fair enough. It was a very long apology. She went on to say, "Among the frequent subjects of my post was then Governor Charlie Crist, at the time a conservative Republican, whose positions on issues like gay marriage and adoption by same-sex couples in Florida shared headlines with widely rumored reports that he was hiding his sexual orientation." She said, "At no time have I intentionally sought to demean or harm the LGBT community, which includes people whom I deeply love. My goal in my ham-handed way was to call out potential hypocrisy." And finally, she said, "Rereading those old blog posts, I am disappointed in myself. I apologize to those who also are disappointed in me. Life can be humbling, it often is. But I hope that you know where my heart is and that I will always strive to use my words for good. I know better and I will do better." Look, if I thought that she's a Democrat, but she's actually against gay people in America, then I would give her no quarter. And I could be wrong, but I don't believe she is. I believe that she was overzealous in prosecuting the case against Charlie Crist. Have other progressives been overzealous in prosecuting the case against Republicans? From time to time, and I also cut them the same break. Now, it's easy for me to say I'm straight. So if you're a part of the LGBT community and you don't want to cut her a break, that's perfectly understandable. That's your call to make, obviously, right? I'm just giving you my opinion, which is what we do here on this show. Look, I hope that Joy gives the same consideration to people before she goes on to make charges that she has in the past. Keeping it real, she's one of the quickest to call liberals in this country racist or sexist, over and over again. So I would not do likewise. I've criticized her significantly for that in the past, and I will continue to do that. But I don't want progressives and liberals making the same mistake. So, and she has now issued an apology, and it is what it is. So it's, to me, I think it's a right-wing tactic to then go demand more and more, and what, demand that she be fired? Again, if that's your true opinion and you're on the left, bless your heart. But as things stand, and with that thorough an apology, in trying to get a Republican to reform his ways, I think that the apology makes sense. So finally, what was the result of all this? Now, it was not just because of Joy Reid, and certainly not because she used offensive terminology like Miss Charlie, but Charlie Crist did switch. He switched to an independent, then to a Democrat, and then went on to issue an apology that is far more important than Joy Reid's apology. He apologized for voting the wrong way on issues of gay rights, including voting against gay marriage. He was wrong, and he said it. He said, "I'm sorry I did that. It was a mistake. I was wrong. Please forgive me." To me, that is the much larger issue. And I think it's a harder apology to accept, given that he voted to take away rights from Americans. LGBT members are 100% American. They should have 100% of the rights as straight Americans. The fact that Charlie Crist denied that for a number of years when he was in power was terrible. Now, I think that he has actually seen the light. I think that his conversion is real into accepting their rights, and he now votes the right way. Again, it's not necessarily my place to accept that apology, but I'm thrilled that he did apologize and change his ways. And to me, that's the much larger story. Okay, now we're going to move on to the people actually running the country when we come back. We're going to talk about Donald Trump. We're going to talk about the RNC and their response to Roy Moore. And if you did not see Roy Moore's spokesperson on CNN yesterday, whoa, buckle up, because look, her insanity speaks for itself. I'm going to show you the video when we come back. Thanks for listening to this podcast. You're only halfway through, so hold, stay right here. Just want to remind you, if you want to get all 5 segments of the Young Turks commercial free, these are just 2 of them. Every day we do it. So go to tytnetwork.com/join and you get the whole 5 segments, 2 hours, ad free. Do it now. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me read a couple of tweets for you guys. Talk to us using hashtag TYT Live during the show. Dylan Lochner says, as Trevor Noah said, pro-lifers are like comic book collectors. When it's in the package, it's worth everything, but when it's out of the package, it's worthless. Damn. That's really funny and devastating. Okay, Santos Juante writes in, Jane Porter is a loathsome person. Agreed. And by the way, there is wild disagreement on whether it's Jane Porter or Janet Porter. Our best guess, based on all of the things that we have read, is Jane Porter, but it might be someone else, giving you a sense of irrelevance in the world. Anyway, I Am Sock says the host was ready to get up and beat the shit out of that spokeswoman. And then I'm going to go to YouTube Super Chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, youtube.com/TYT, you could participate and help the show as well by using Super Chat. Connor Lazaro says, with all these Republicans projecting and accusing others of sexual assault, then turning out to be predators themselves, I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually Trump who killed JFK. Well, I would be surprised, but I understand the point you're making. Dumb writes in, moderator, your next coffee is on me. I assume referring to Poppy Harlow, but I'm not positive. All right, and our members of the day are Glenn Matlin and Dana Copeland. You guys are fantastic. You make independent media possible. And you also made the story that we're about to give you from TYT Investigates possible. So thank you for helping us break that story. You could become a member by going to tytnetwork.com/join, where we actually fight for real progressives. Okay, now let's go over here and talk about Conyers. Okay. So John Conyers, longest serving member of the House, is stepping down today. He was on a radio program and he said, I'm retiring today. It is a sad ending to what was a great career. He's 88 years old. He was both a Democratic Party legend and a civil rights legend. But unfortunately, we found out that he had been doing things with female staffers that were wildly inappropriate, to say the least. Multiple staffers have come out. Remember, they're all Democrats, and they, just like the overwhelming majority of accusers of both Democrats, Republicans, celebrities, and anyone else, there's no reason for them to lie. It doesn't mean that every person is guilty, but it does mean that believing the woman makes sense. That in the past, that has not always been the assumption, and that was wrong. And so, and Conyers does not have very good explanations here. He says about the accusers, quote, I can't explain where they came from. Well, I can. They came from your office. So Marion Brown had a settlement as late as 2015 with him, but she broke her silence and said that it's important for her to speak out to protect other women. And the story she told was a harrowing one, now backed up by other people that have worked with John Conyers. Now, during the program, Conyers said he told Gaddis his legacy can't be compromised or diminished in any way by the allegations. Well, if only it were so, but that's not true. Of course, his legacy is tarnished by this. That part is a shame because unlike the monsters on the right or in Hollywood, John Conyers had actually done great things for the country. And as recently as right now, when he was fighting for Medicare for All, it was his bill that got so much traction and pushed the Democratic Party in the right direction. So Roger Ailes, I think, did a lot of damage to the country. I wasn't sorry to see the charges against him, and nor was I surprised. And the list goes on and on. Roy Moore, etc. But for Conyers, I was surprised, and it is a mixed record. So what he did with these women is, if true, is terrible, and it certainly seems true. So let me be clear. There was another one who came out on Monday night Former staffer Elisa Grubbs said Conyers groped her and that such behavior was, quote, a regular part of life while working in the office of Representative Conyers. And it doesn't matter the other good that you've done. Not that it erases it. It doesn't. Both are real. But it doesn't matter that you've done those great things if you've also done these terrible things. And so you've got to go and the Democratic leadership did turn and say that he should resign, including largely from what we saw reports from the Congressional Black Caucus. And so in fact, he did resign. So final note on this is that Conyers then endorsed someone in the race, his son, John Conyers III, to succeed him in Congress. Now, I don't know anything about John Conyers III, so I will, withhold thoughts on his policies or positions or whether he should be in Congress. But as a general note, I must note that I am very tired of our democracy being treated like it's not a democracy and it's something to be handed off as if people are royalty. So it's true of Democrats and Republicans. So George W. Bush was an imbecile, but he was the son of George H.W. Bush, who was already a president, and earlier than that had been a senator and the head of the CIA. So he was anointed just because he was a son. He was plainly, clearly not intelligent, not qualified. And we elected him anyway. Oh, his last name is Bush. And then the Clintons, her last name is Clinton. Now people are talking about Chelsea Clinton. Can we move on? I think there's a lot of great people in the country. They don't have to have the same last name as the person who was just there. So not saying anything about John Conyers III, but I am tired of people thinking that this is, a system of lords and princes and kings and queens, and that we pass the mantle in that way. No, it's supposed to be a democracy where we all have a chance. And of course, throughout most of his career, that's actually what John Conyers fought for. And I hope that that is also remembered in this sad day when he resigns and should have resigned. Okay, so now let's get to the giant Trump story. Okay. Now, from day one, when talking about the possibility of collusion with Russia in the Trump campaign, I've been telling you on this show, ever since Donald Trump became president, that's an important and relevant story. But the much bigger story is the ties that Donald Trump has to Russia, specifically financial ties. It's out in the open. Donald Trump Jr. has said on several occasions that, yes, they took money from the Russians. They took money from the Russians for golf courses and other things. We know that the Russians have invested significantly in Trump properties. We know that Trump has sold one of his homes at a minimum in South Florida at a great profit, conveniently, to a Russian oligarch. We know that the top Russian bank, Alpha Bank, is talking to Donald Trump's server, pinging Donald Trump's server in the middle of Pennsylvania. I could go on and on and on. All these things are already out there. He has his money in the same part of Deutsche Bank that was called the Global Laundromat that also had the Russian oligarchs. And in fact, finally today, I think the most important part of this entire story is that Mueller is going after Trump's bank accounts. Going after how? Just simply to find out. Look, if you didn't do anything wrong, then you're not going to have any issues there. And Trump swears up and down that he didn't do anything wrong. And I wouldn't go into people's bank accounts for no reason, but they got a warrant because they had legitimate concerns about what he was doing with his money and his connections to Russia in that regard. So let me give you the full story here, because I think this is going to be the end game. So, as Reuters reports, special counsel Robert Mueller has asked Deutsche Bank to share data on accounts held by US President Donald Trump and his family, a person close to the matter said on Tuesday. Not yet, but we're almost there. Germany's largest bank received a subpoena from Mueller several weeks ago to provide information on certain money and credit transactions.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Not yet, but we're really, really close. Now, previously, when House Democrats had asked Deutsche Bank for the same information, they said, no, we respect the privacy of our accounts and our customers, and we're not going to give over to a congressional investigation without proper authorization in their estimation. I think that's a fair statement to say. I don't think you'd want them giving your private bank information over either. But if you've got a legal warrant, there's no ands, ifs, or buts. That's it. And so how did Deutsche Bank respond in this case? Well, they put out a statement saying Deutsche Bank always cooperates with investigation authorities in all countries. Not yet, but we're awfully close. If they have his bank accounts, and Deutsche Bank is saying they have his bank accounts. Not yet, but we're close. Okay, look, if Mueller goes in and says, oh no, I looked at his bank accounts, and it turns out it's kosher, hey, then that's the conclusion, and that's that, and I was wrong, and all these things that or circumstantial evidence in public turn out to be surprisingly not indicative of anything that he had done wrong. And that'll be that. And we don't know that for sure. Now, the investigators might know as they look through his accounts. But if I am anywhere near right, my guess is they will find great wrongdoing within those accounts. Now, look, he also likely hid money in other banks, potentially Bank of Cyprus. Who ran the Bank of Cyprus? Oh yeah, Wilbur Ross, who's now his Commerce Secretary. What a wonderful coincidence. I'm surprised he didn't put the head of Deutsche Bank as a German bank, but he could try in an important government position in America. So let me give you more context now from Talking Points memo. Deutsche Bank conducted its own internal analysis that found no evidence that its dealings with Trump were connected to the so-called Russian mirror trades affair, an alleged money laundering scheme to funnel Russian money out of the country. Now, I'm giving you that as partly as balance. Deutsche Bank says that he's not connected to the Russians, according to their own internal investigation. On the other hand, this was before the subpoenas. Do you think that Deutsche Bank was like, oh, we did an internal investigation? Turns out we've been allowing money laundering at this bank for a long, long time. Yeah, we let the Russians do it, we let Trump do it, we let them do it together. Let's just say I'm not surprised that their internal investigation found out they had done nothing wrong. Now let's get a real investigation and find out what actually happened. Now, here's more from The Guardian now. They explain that instead, said Ryan Goodman, a New York law professor and former Pentagon counsel, it showed, this part of the investigation, showed that Mueller was possibly examining whether the president could be compromised by Russian interests. We're close, folks. That's the end game. If he was compromised financially by the Russians, all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm having trouble remembering things. Oh man, all those tweets. Oh man, it turns out I had Alzheimer's. Roger Stone, when he planted that seed, turns out he was right. Oh golly gee, I gotta get out of here. Now we got a deal, right? No handcuffs, right? One more. The Guardian says the president was in the past loaned about $300 million by Deutsche Bank. His indebtedness, Goodman said, means that Mueller will want to examine if there are any connections between Russia and the president's financial vulnerabilities.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen.
Not yet, but we are so close. All that drama about the stock market took a 350-point drop the other day because of an ABC News report because they thought that Mike Flynn might have turned on Trump about the campaign. Man, that is tiny compared to this. So stock market, brace for impact. But one more thing I told you right from day one. What are they going to do? I said almost the only thing that Donald Trump is going to quote unquote accomplish, because every donor in the country wants it, is gigantic, record-breaking tax cuts, and then he's gone. Here we are. Here comes the tax cuts. Here comes Trump getting run out of office. Gee, I wonder how it's going to wind up. Perhaps, just like I said, pass the giant tax cuts, and then we're done with this bozo. We're done with this clown. The only thing left, my guess, after Mueller looks through the accounts, will be how Trump leaves office.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
Okay, I got to keep going. Now, huge story out of TYT Investigates, and I'm very proud of their investigation, very proud of you guys for supporting it. You made this possible if you're among the people in the TYT audience that funded this program. Michael Tracy breaking a story about the DCCC. Now, these are the folks who are supposed to help Democrats get elected to Congress. Now, like the DNC, they're supposed to be neutral to which Democrats get elected. And theoretically, if you're more progressive, they should be happier about that. Laugh along with me. Now, first, TYT Investigates looked at this objectively. I will give you what they said, and throughout I will give you my commentary on it, okay? So Tracy reports, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is making several demands of candidates preparing for the 2018 House elections, according to an internal memo obtained by TYT. The memo dictates policies on campaign spending and sexual harassment and outlines requirements for Democratic Party unity. Now, I'm glad that they have guidelines on sexual harassment. That sounds good. I've got no issue with that. But demanding unity, well, that depends on what you mean, doesn't it? That seems a little strange. And on campaign spending, why wouldn't a candidate be allowed to spend the money any way he likes? Well, let's find out. The memo was sent by DCCC Executive Director Dan Cena on December 1st to candidates and campaign managers, so recently. So what did it say? Well, it includes a requirement that the campaigns must, quote, not to engage in tactics that do harm to our chances of winning a general election. Wait a minute. What in the world does that mean? They're running a primary against one another. So by definition, likely at some point they will say, well, I'm at a minimum slightly better than the other guy, right? When you're running a campaign, you make a case for yourself. And of course, almost by definition, you make a case against the other person. So it's preposterous to say, no, don't harm any of the other candidates. You're running against them. This is the same kind of ideology. Don't harm Hillary Clinton because she's a presumptive nominee. Well, who presumed it? You presumed it. And now we know because of Donna Brazile, who was the DNC chair, turns out there was a reason they presumed it, because they had taken over financial control of the DNC. So here comes now the DCCC on the House side going, make sure that you don't criticize. Now, they don't say incumbents, but they mean incumbents, and I'll show you why, okay? But by the way, is that rule really true? For example, Doug Applegate's a Justice Democrat. He's the leading candidate in the race against Darrell Issa. Darrell Issa is now down by 10 points to Democrats. Doug Applegate is very likely to be the candidate, very likely to be the next congressman in that district in California. So does that mean the establishment candidates, and there are several in that race, are not allowed to criticize Doug Applegate? Okay, great. There's progressives that are in the Justice Democrats that are leading in a handful of races. Are there establishment, corporatist, centrist Democrats not allowed to criticize them? My guess is they're like, oh, well, but that's different. But that's different, right? So, well, let's keep going here. Candidates also must hold a unity event with their primary opponents following a primary, the memo says. Okay, well, I would hope so. You know, you guys know my opinion and what I did during the 2016 election. I fought for Bernie Sanders because I thought he was a better candidate. I was right. And because I could read polls, and I didn't care about the money at the DNC and who was getting paid and which consultants were getting rich. And then when he lost, I said Hillary Clinton was better than Donald Trump. So now I've gotten plenty of grief for that and a lot of disagreement about that, but I think I was right about that as well. So I believe in having unity, especially against monstrous Republican candidates. But would I enforce that? Well, that's kind of a weird thing. I don't know what's going to happen in the race. So, for example, let's take a Republican example. John McCain and George Bush were running against each other in 2000 for president, obviously, in the primaries. And Bush's team did a robocall where they said, where they smeared John McCain by saying that he had an illegitimate black child. Now, that's not true, but Karl Rove did that incredibly dirty tactic anyway. Now, in reality, of course, they had actually adopted a child from Southeast Asia. I mean, what Bush did there was the worst of the worst. Is John McCain supposed to turn around and go, oh, George Bush, let's hug it out. What a wonderful thing. Let's do unity. If I was John McCain, under no circumstances would I do that. And I don't care what the DNC or the RNC tells me about the unity I'm supposed to have. So I would say, I hope so, but it certainly depends. So now, then Michael Tracy for TYT Investigates when talked to other people that are strategists in the Democratic Party from different stripes. One strategist working on a Democratic congressional campaign who was not authorized to speak publicly said that barring primary candidates from using tactics that might disadvantage the winner in the general election gives the edge to, quote, corporatist candidates who have super PAC backing. Those super PACs could carry out such attacks, while smaller grassroots campaigns without super PACs would be unable to respond. Now, that's a great point. And I have to confess that I did not think of that until I read that quote, and I just saw this story today, and it's a great story, and let's just tackle that issue. Do you understand the trick being played here? They tell all the candidates, including progressive candidates with less money and progressive candidates who don't have super PAC backing because they're not corrupted, don't fight, don't criticize the other side. But they can't do anything about the super PACs. So the corporate Democrats who have super PAC backing can unleash their super PACs to destroy the progressive candidates. And then the DCCC goes, oh, is that what happened? Oh, sorry. I made you guys unilaterally disarm while the super PACs destroyed you. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Not remotely interested in that horse crap. Okay, Democratic congressional campaign strategist says this is systemically designed to disadvantage progressives. Now, more from the Tracy story here. The memo requests the signature of the candidate, but it's unclear the extent to which it would be legally binding. The memo says the DCCC will provide trainings and template campaign tools to candidates who have open lines of communication with the DCCC. Now, that has two components that are very important. One is, Jay, sign it. You better sign it, okay? No, don't sign anything. Who the hell are you guys to tell us what to sign and what not to sign? Or to tell any of the candidates, the ones I agree with, the ones I disagree with. But what's their leverage? So that brings us to point number 2. You're not going to get any training or campaign tools if you don't have open line of communication with the DCCC. In other words, if you don't sign and unilaterally disarm, we'll take away all the tools you have. And we'll create an unfair playing ground. Democratic Party doing that in favor of corporate interests. Why? I would never. So they're still doing it today. And then when you bring up issues like this, a story we just broke today, they'll say, oh, you're relitigating the past. No, this has nothing to do with 2016. You're doing it right now. Now, here comes something even stranger. And this is really interesting. The memo mandates that candidates preserve at least 75% of all funds they raise for, quote, paid communications, which is seen as code for TV advertising, a method viewed by much of the new generation of Democrats as outmoded, especially for mobilizing young and minority voters who could be critical in 2018. Why do you care how they spend their money? What a weird thing, right? For example, Kanyela Ng, a great progressive candidate out of Hawaii. He's also the leading candidate, also likely to win. My guess is they're not going to tell his corporatist Democratic opponents to back down and not attack him. But anyway, he's leading. And how did he get there in the first place? He's really young. Well, he won his first seat when he was 23. You know how he did it? He knocked on 15,000 doors. The DCCC would tell him, don't do that. Don't knock on doors. You have to spend 75% of your money on TV. Why is that your business? If I think it's a waste of money, why do I have to waste the money that way? Oh, because the DCCC and the DNC and this whole Democratic Party organization, unfortunately, at the establishment level, at the Washington, D.C. level, it's not about getting Democrats elected. It's about taking all that money and funneling it to Democratic consultants who actually run the DNC and now apparently the DCCC. And people who are working in advertising who take 15% commission on every TV ad. The lawyers who facilitate that. This is all about the money. Don't fight back against our opponents who have been corrupted by the money, and take whatever money you have and make sure you spend it on TV. The answer should be a unilateral hell no. Hell no. So, and then they wonder, well, how did we lose popular support? I don't know why progressives aren't backing us. And you wonder why they don't talk about Trump's corruption, because it would bring up their corruption. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Uncorrupted progressive candidates can talk about Trump's corruption all day long because they don't take corporate PAC money. They're not wed to the DNC and the DCCC lobbyist friends and consultant friends and the people who are skimming all that money off the top. Finally, Norma Solomon, who ran for Congress, who was a Bernie delegate in the last election, said the DCCC has a very bad history of pushing out more progressive candidates during a primary, and the bad history has not ended. It's always a subtle blackmail. If you don't show that you can play ball, we're going to freeze you out. Well, then they'll turn around and go, what? Let's have unity. No, I don't agree to you freezing out progressives. I don't agree to you being corrupt. I don't agree to you funneling all the money to your friends who are lobbyists and consultants and advertisers and all the other things. We don't agree. I don't agree that I need to run on your corporatist agenda. I don't agree that I need to sign off that I'm never going to criticize my opponent. For example, in California, Dianne Feinstein is in favor of the death penalty. I'm not supposed to criticize her on that. And Allison Hartson running against her is not supposed to criticize her on that. And then you've got, she voted for the Bush tax cuts. You're not supposed to criticize that. Why would I not criticize that? Why can't California have a progressive senator? Hey, we'll cut off all your tools. We'll cut off all your, now that's a Senate run. DCCC is on the House side. But you can apply it to any of them. There's corporatist candidate after corporatist candidate. And we're apparently supposed to let them destroy progressives and then pay for their own destruction. No, thank you. Unfortunately, the corruption continues. All right, one last thing for you guys, story for today. Sorry, we're not going to get to Santa, but we'll do it tomorrow. You'll love it. The destruction of Santa by a pastor is hilarious. But this is really important. I just wanted to share it with you real quick. So there's a budget showdown that's coming up, and I think the Democrats have unfortunate strategy. And Just Democrats are the strong progressive wing of the Democratic Party, and they're concerned that it's not a great strategy. And so what they're asking you to do is get involved and sign a petition. So the better strategy, we believe, is to ask for more. Now, there's a mistake that Democrats did all throughout the Obama era. They would ask for less, and then they would settle for even less, and the negotiations would go from bad to worse. So right now, the Democrats are asking for the DREAM Act in return for authorizing the budget, because the Republicans do need Democratic votes to pass the budget. Why ask for only one thing? So that sets up a situation that's binary. Either we win and get the DREAM Act, or the Republicans win and kill the DREAM Act. Now, what do you think Trump's going to do under those circumstances? What do you think his base is going to ask him to do under those circumstances? They're going to say, don't ever give the DREAM Act to the Democrats. So why are you starting with that position? Why don't you ask for things that the American people totally agree with, that are wildly popular? And maybe you can get a couple of them. I would argue you should get all of them. Now, we're not asking for 87 things. We're asking for 3 incredibly simple positions. One is, yes, the DREAM Act. By the way, the DREAM Act has enormous popularity throughout the country. 84% of Democrats and even 60% of Republicans support the DREAM Act. Did you know that? Now, Trump doesn't, and that's where the issue is, and the right-wing Republicans, of course, don't. Okay, so the second ask is net neutrality. Also 60% approval, and the others mainly just largely don't know about what net neutrality is. The disapproval of net neutrality is minuscule. So a very, very popular provision. Lastly, protecting Social Security and Medicare. That has 90% of Democrats and 80% of Republicans agree. It's the simplest thing in the world. Hey, Let's put into the budget that you are not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. And in fact, you would need a 2/3 vote to cut those. Well, 80% of Republicans agree, so what's the problem? Ask for more. It's not that complicated. So look, one of the ways that we put pressure on the Democrats to put pressure to get the right things, to fight for us, is to do these petitions. We did this for Medicare for All. It made, I would argue, a big difference. So everybody go to justdemocrats.com/AmericansAgree. Check out what it says there, read it in its entirety, and then sign the petition so we can get going. Of course, Representative Cenk Ana is already on board, is always a fighter for progressive issues and showing courage and leadership once again on this. The reason it's called Americans Agree is because all of these provisions have at a minimum 60% agreement for the whole country. It is not a tough ask. In my opinion, and the opinion of the Just Democrats, and I would dare say most of the progressives in the country, this is the minimum we should ask for. And I don't know why we're asking for only one thing when they need our votes. Stop letting them take hostages, fight back, and fight for incredibly popular positions which happen to be progressive. Believe in yourself, and you might actually win. Go sign the petition now. We'll have the link down below in the description box or in the comment section, depending on where you're watching, justdemocrats.com/AmericansAgree. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, John Oliver goes after Dustin Hoffman in public. Wow, that was fascinating. And I was hesitating calling it a fight, but as you see, no, it was a fight. So we'll share that with you when we come back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Ana, and I'll see you soon.